Okay, class. Okay, so I want you to understand that so here we see the external ear, middle ear, and the inner ear. Now, if you think of the inner ear, the cochlea is a coiled structure, right? Now, in this picture, we are just looking at the cochlea, but instead of a coiled structure, if you can imagine uncoiling everything and straightening it out, so this is what we see. We are basically looking at the cochlea, which has been straightened out. All right. So we will start by labeling few things of the inner ear. So this is the blue part outside is the cochlear. This is the cochlea, and inside this part is the inside tube, that is the cochlear duct. Sorry. If you look at the cochlear duct, the top or the top part is lined by a membrane, and this is called vestibular membrane. I have drawn it out with purple. So right here, this membrane is called vestibular . And the bottom, do you see the green membrane? That's called basilar membrane. Okay. Now, on top of the basilar membrane, the yellow cells, those are hair cells. And we also see that the axons of the hair cells come together to form the cochlear branch of cranial nerve 8. Alright, on top of the hair cells there is a gel-like material, and that is called the tectorial membrane. Tectorial membrane. Alright. Now, the space between the cochlea and the vestibular membrane, this is called scala vestibuli, and the scala vestibuli is filled with perilymph. The space between the basilar membrane and the cochlea is called scala tympani, and this is also filled with perilymph. And within the cochlear duct, the fluid here is called endolymph. Okay, so let's label everything on another picture one more time. Looking into the cochlear part, this space is scala vestibuli, filled with perilymph. This is scala tympani, filled with perilymph. And this is filled with endolymph. Okay, the superior part of the cochlear duct is lined by a membrane called vestibular membrane, and the inferior part is lined by another membrane called basilar membrane. We do see the hair cells in yellow. And this is called the tectorial plate or tectorial membrane. All right. Let's put tectorial membrane. All right. Now, how do we hear things? Let's talk about that. First, sound waves enter the ear via the external ear. So this is where the sound waves, oh man, what's wrong? Sound waves enter. The sound waves then hit the tympanic membrane. And as the sound waves hit the tympanic membrane starts vibrating. As the tympanic membrane vibrates, that moves the ear ossicles. And in the process, the sound waves are amplified. Now I want to focus on the stapes here. Now the stapes sits on this window, which is oval in shape, and this is called the oval window. Okay. Now as the ear ossicles start vibrating, the stapes at the oval window generates pressure waves in the perilymph within the scala vestibuli. So the stapes vibrates and that generates pressure waves within the scala vestibuli. Within the perilymph of scala vestibuli. The more vibration of stapes, the more vibration of the perilymph within the scala vestibuli. Now, pressure waves in the scala vestibuli causes the vestibular membrane to move. So, the pressure waves hit the vestibular membrane and causes the vestibular membrane to move, resulting in pressure wave formation in the endolymph within the cochlear duct. So in that causes the endolymph to have some pressure as well. Okay. This results in displacement of specific region of the basilar membrane. So as the endolymph vibrates, that causes displacement of the basilar membrane. And you can imagine the hair cells kind of jumping, or the hair cells being displaced. As the hair cells are displaced, they hit the tectorial membrane, and as the hair cells hit the tectorial membrane, their heads bend. Bending of the hair cells, again same thing, shoots out action potential via the cochlear branch of vestibulocochlear nerve 8 or cranial nerve 8, and the sensory information travels to the temporal lobe of the brain. All the remaining pressure waves, they are transferred to scala tympani and they exit the inner ear via the round window. Do you see the round window in black? That's a round window. Let me label this. Round window. So let's do it one more time. We have sound waves entering via the external ear. So from the external ear, sound wave passes through the external auditory meatus and the sound waves hit the tympanic membrane. Now, the tympanic membrane then starts vibrating, and in result of that, the ear ossicles vibrate as well. Vibrate. As the ear ossicles vibrate, that amplifies the sound. Amplifies the sound. Now, the stapes, which is one of the ear ossicles, stapes vibrates against the oval window, and this causes some pressure waves. Remember, in the inner ear you have fluid, so that causes pressure waves in the perilymph of scala vestibuli. These pressure waves these cause the vestibular membrane to distort. Distortion of vestibular membrane causes pressure waves in causes pressure waves in the endolymph, and as there are pressure waves in the endolymph, that causes pressure waves in the endolymph causes the basilar membrane to vibrate. As there is vibration in the basilar membrane, hair cells touch the tectorial membrane, and touching the tectorial membrane, the hair cells bend. As the hair cells bend, the action potential is carried by the vestibular branch, by the cochlear branch of cranial nerve 8, and the information then travels to the temporal lobe. All right. So I'll stop here and start with a new video.